So in 2004, Bush is able to do what his father could not, and that's be reelected as president and to serve a second term. Despite the controversial decision to go to war with Iraq, Bush defeats John Kerry, a Democratic senator from Massachusetts. Bush had gained a lot of support from his handling of the aftermath of 9/11. The country was really kind of in a spirit of unity in those years. And the questions surrounding Iraq weren't enough at the time to cost him a second term. So with public sentiment at a low during the first term, due to the inconsistent results in Iraq, Bush institutes a surge in the second term, in which he made an all-out effort with the military striking consistently. Before this, Iraq was beginning to look a lot like Vietnam, in that politics and public sentiment were creating a less than all-out effort. And the surge changed that. And America successfully defeated the insurgents in the nation, and a new democratically elected government was put in place of the former one that was led by Saddam Hussein. So, I mean, this all occurred after his win. This wasn't a reason for his win in the second term, but just kind of wanted to conclude the whole deal with the Iraqi war and Bush. The surge really was beneficial and led to, a clear victory there in the country. Economically, Bush's second term is going to be a nightmare for him. Just about the time when he kind of rights the wrong of the Iraqi war effort with the surge, he has very little time to celebrate as his second term is coming to an end. Like the stock market crash of 1929, the economy in 2006 and 2007 begins to suffer from shaky credit and lending procedures that were given to Americans during the first part of the decade. Many what were called subprime loans were given to Americans during this time, particularly as it had to do with home mortgages, so people that were given home loans. Banks, what was happening here is that banks were approving loans they should not have approved for individuals that had less than solid credit. So when you say subprime lending, what you're saying is you're lending money to those that don't have, solid credit, or typically would get those kind of loans. So loans were easier to get, particularly when it came to mortgages or home loans. The result of that practice was by 2006, 2007, America was going through an epidemic of failed mortgages, and home foreclosures were occurring all across the nation. They referred to this as the housing bubble, and it had an overall impact on the economy, including a dramatic increase in unemployment as Bush's second term was ending. So with Bush finishing his second term as president, the 2008 presidential election would guarantee a new president. The Republicans in 2008 choose Arizona moderate Republican John McCain as its candidate. McCain was a decorated war hero and former prisoner of war from the Vietnam era. He was also a longtime senator, and he had been instrumental in convincing Bush to institute the successful surge in the Iraqi war. McCain also supported Bush's decision at the end of his presidency to bail out many of the major banks who were on the verge of collapse due to the subprime lending, which was kind of a little bit of a controversial thing, especially if you're trying to impress conservative free market thinkers in the Republican Party, who basically would say, hey, if businesses make poor decisions, they should fail, and new ones will emerge in their place. McCain, Bush felt like this was something that you couldn't afford to do when it came to banking, and tax dollars were given to help a lot of these major banks out of their predicament. On the other side, the Democrats chose the historic candidate in Barack Obama. Historic because he was the first African American major party candidate and had rose quickly to popularity in his short political career. He hadn't really been in politics very long. He'd served a few years in the state Senate in Illinois and then had won successfully in Illinois' senator race and was representing the state of Illinois in the Senate in Washington, D.C. He came really to the public, to the limelight at the 2004 Democratic National Convention when the Democrats were nominating John Kerry for the presidency. Many thought Obama kind of stealed the show of that week by giving a very spirited, kind of in the fashion of Martin Luther King's colorblind "I Have a Dream" speech. Where, he really kind of tried to transcend the issue of race. And it was a very powerful and well-received speech. So he had kind of been put on the scene by that 2004 convention. Now, in the election itself, Obama had the advantage of being from the opposition party at a time the economy was disastrous. So very similar to what we had talked about in 1980 with President Reagan benefiting from Carter's sluggish economy. When you are from the opposition party, it really does give you an advantage. He also was benefiting from really just the historical role and the possibility of the nation electing an African-American president and symbolically what that would mean, from a nation that struggled with kind of the ghosts of slavery and a race-based slavery system against blacks. There was definitely a benefit in that regard too. And then just really his skill as a politician. He was a very charismatic yet intellectual candidate. He was able to kind of combine both elements, which is a great thing to have politically, at your disposal or to have those kind of attributes. And so he uses those advantages and wins pretty convincingly in 2008 over McCain. To counter the historic appeal of Obama, McCain also chose a historic running mate in Sarah Palin. She was a little-known politician from Alaska, but she was significant in that she was a conservative woman and the first woman to be chosen by the Republicans to run for vice president. She wasn't the first woman to be chosen. That actually was in 1984. Geraldine Ferraro had been chosen by Walter Mondale. But she was a liberal Democrat. So Palin was historic in that she was a conservative woman running for vice president. And then finally, last slide for the unit, last slide actually for the textbook, a kind of an overall look at Obama's presidency. He created great hope in the nation for overcoming racial divides. The fact that he was elected, most Americans had hoped it would be a vehicle for us kind of transcending, a lot of the racial divides that we had had in the past, from, the civil rights movement, the Jim Crow era, and slavery itself. Unfortunately, the results of his presidency were that we probably ended up more divisive at the end of his second term. And who's to say where the blame of that goes? Depends on which side you ask, on why we weren't more unified and seemed to be more divisive at the end of his term. A big thing towards the end of his second term was the whole Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter issue, where one side saw a social injustice against African Americans in our country, and specifically as it was perpetuated by the police and incarceration, mass incarceration of African Americans. There was some high-profile deaths of African American men that led to in some cases, protests, and in some cases riots in a couple of cities. And Obama seemed to side more on the cause of social justice. It wasn't 100% like that all the time. It just, the feel of the country was that he kind of was saying, maybe the social justice argument is a little more profound, which again doesn't mean that he didn't show any support for police officers, but the public perception was kind of that it was on the side of the social justice group. Obama tackled the poor economy early in his first term by passing a major stimulus program that poured tax dollars into a hope to stimulate the economy. While the efforts did not end the economic recession, supporters of Obama claim it prevented a Great Depression from occurring. So there wasn't like an overnight turnaround of things. The economy still kind of slogged about, was sluggish. But supporters of Obama say had he not done the stimulus and some of the things that he did, that we would have been in a harsher depression. Whereas those against Obama say, hey, the results are the results, and we never really were carried out of it. They might look at FDR, for example, as a common example or comparison to Obama. That maybe FDR's New Deal maybe prolonged the Depression more than it actually got us out of it. And so, again, depending on who you talk to, how that impacted the economy is up for debate. Obama's biggest domestic policy attempt was officially called the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. It was nicknamed Obamacare, and it brought government into the realm of health insurance by mandating coverage for all in the nation. There would later be a Supreme Court decision that would back this law as being constitutional. Those opposed to it said that it wasn't constitutional to mandate Americans to purchase anything, including health insurance, but the Supreme Court kind of supported the concept behind the law. For many, it was seen as a first step towards socialized medicine like they have in Canada and Britain, and similar to the attempts of the Clintons in the 1990s.